Awesome to be with each of you this morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And so we're going to do our best to make the best use of your time. Today, a couple of ground rules. I hope that this is a conversation, not a monologue. So feel free to respond, to chat in the chat box, to ask questions. I always find that I learn best through conversation. Not just presentation. And so I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you on today. So today we're going to be talking about optimizing company culture, right? And so culture, we're going to start with the definitions. Culture is the values, behaviors, habits, and perceptions shared by a group of people. They build on one another. So your values influence and inform your behavior influences your habits, and your habits inform the perceptions that other people have about you, whether it's your business or you individually. So your internal culture equals your employee experience, and your employee experience equals your client experience. And so we're going to go through a few statements like that kind of help to inform where we're going with our conversation today. We also know that your internal culture equals your competitive advantage. What we also know is that high engagement is not necessarily a sign of a strong internal culture. And so oftentimes we feel like if people are responding or they're talking to us a lot, that they must be really engaged. And that isn't always quite the truth. According to this Gallup poll, only 20% or less feel connected to their organization's culture, right? So they're in it, they may be engaging and talking to their company and their higher ups, but according to this poll, it says that they are not connected to their organization's culture. So that's kind of what we're going to hone in on today. How do we get individuals to connect with our culture in a way that feels really palpable, and then ultimately influences our bottom line? So to that end, how would you describe your work culture? So if you had to put some words or some adjectives, some nouns to your work culture, and the environment that you have created for your business, how would you describe that? You can drop it in the chat box, you can unmute yourself, whatever you feel like is best. But how would you describe your work culture? And I'll wait to get some of your responses here. I polled my team, and some of the responses that we got from our team was active, communicative, responsive, engaging, learning oriented. So how would you describe, or what words would you use to describe your work culture? Again, I hope this is a conversation and not a monologue. So I'd love to have your feedback. Regina says transparent and rebuking in love. Get it, girl. Rebuke in love. I'm here for that. That's the phrase for 2023. Rebuke in love, right? How would you describe your work culture? What are you trying to put together, and what do you hope that experience is? We're going to move on while some of you are still warming up your fingers. Allison says collaborative and transparent. Yes. Melissa says positive. Yes, 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 yes. So the things that we're going to talk about today are these 10 points that you see on your screen, in optimizing our company culture. This is not going to be a super long presentation because I hope that we can have a discussion afterwards, and dialogue and ask and answer questions. So the first thing you want to know is that you need to put people first, period, full stop. Develop people, and then the money will follow. You have to spend time investing time, energy, and intention into developing the people that are around you, and be committed to their longevity, whether as just as a human, not just within your organization, but as a human. When people feel like you are invested in them, they reciprocally become invested in you, i.e. your business, which affects your bottom line. Next, you want to have a focus on leadership. What are some of the characteristics that you admire in a great leader? So when you think about people in business, or leaders of organizations or nonprofits or movements, what were some of the characteristics that you really admired or still admire in a great leader? You can drop that in the chat box as well. I'll tell you some of mine. Some of the individuals that I admire their candor, and their organizational skills. I admire their vision, their ability to forecast trends and changes that could potentially affect their business. Those are characteristics I really admire. Their ability to articulate maybe their values. Allison says, I love when former bosses helped me to develop my own goals within the organization. Yeah, I can co-sign on that. People feeling like they're invested in you personally and your ability or your desire to meet those goals. I really like that. What are some of the characteristics that you admire in a great leader? The reason this is important is because management must be self-aware and they should lead from a place of transparency and integrity. You have to reflect the values and the characteristics that you require of other people. To that same end, what would be the characteristics of a great nanny or an NCS or a household manager? When I think of the great characteristics of a good nanny that I want to watch my kids, I would hope that they're curious, that they are playful, that they are warm, that they are emotionally intelligent, that they're articulate, that they are innovative, that they are flexible, that they're professional, that they're intelligent, that they're nurturing, that they're empathetic, right? These are characteristics that I see and that I would hope for in a great nanny. And when I talk to other agency owners, I find that they are similarly looking for those types of characteristics in the people that they employ or that they work with. But often we are consistently requiring of others what we are unable or unwilling to do consistently ourselves. So having leadership that is self-aware, that puts forth the types of characteristics that you want to see reflected in your team and in the others around you is really, really important. And especially given like this post-Great Resignation period where we've already had people leaving environments and leaving workplace environments and things like that because of all the things that happened during COVID. Now more than ever, they are spotlighting what is happening in leadership. What type of leader am I really aligning myself with? And so really being aware of your leadership style and the characteristics that you're putting forth is really important to company culture. Next, you want to have a purpose that magnetizes those who are like-minded. You want to ensure that your mission aligns with the employee expectations and values, right? And so to do that, you want to make sure that your mission and your value statement, if you have them already, is informing your culture. And then your brand should really be the thing that kind of propels that forward or reflects that internal mission and value statement. You also want to be relevant. Gone are the days of like being in the backwoods somewhere and just like hiding under a rug when things are happening in the world around us. In order to develop a strong culture internally, you have to be relevant. You have to take a stand on some things. You should be engaged in things that are happening in your community, in the society, and in the world at large. So another question I have for you, as you can see, I'm very inquisitive this morning. What are your strengths, or you personally, what do you do exceptionally well? So when you think about yourself, you look at yourself in your proverbial business mirror, what are some of your strengths? And what are the things that you personally feel like you do really, really, really well? I'll give you a moment to drop that in the chat. What are your strengths? And what are some of the things that you do really, really well? So some of the things that, oh, go ahead.
Me personally, I love to run and to exercise a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
think really, really good at that.
I'm here for that. I'm here for that. So I actually just had a meeting with my team this morning and I asked them this question, like, what are some of your strengths and what are the things that you do really, really well, right? And they told me all the things that they felt like they did well. And then I asked them, what are some of the things that, another member of your team, you feel like they do really, really well? And what we found is that they actually had really great insight on some of the strengths that other people on the team had. Why is this important to company culture? Because you need to know your strengths and you need to know the strengths of others. A team's awareness of its strengths is a better indicator of engagement and a predictor of performance than actually the specific strengths themselves. Your ability to know this person in my organization is really, really good at X, Y, and Z, or this person on my team or in my company or that I am affiliated with is really, really excellent, or this person in this industry is amazing at X, Y, and Z. Your ability to know not only your own strengths, but to recognize the strengths of others helps to provide a cohesiveness within your organization that also positively affects your bottom line. Next, you want to encourage partnerships. Did you know that over 40% of people in the workforce have a side hustle? right? So they have another thing that they're doing, whether it's their passion project, whether it's another business that they're starting, whether it's a blog that they're writing. Over 40% of people in the workforce have a passion project or a side hustle. You should encourage that as part of your internal culture. It's one of the things that helps to set you apart as a business. Attempting to stifle that says that you don't value innovation. You are not a proponent of entrepreneurship, that you're threatened by creativity. Instead, encouraging that, encouraging the side hustle and encouraging partnerships within your organization. Hey, I heard that you were looking to do X, Y, and Z. Did you know so-and-so started a business and she does that? Maybe you could reach out to her. She may be able to help you. Encouraging those types of partnerships really helps to strengthen your organization as a cohesive unit, and it provides more interconnectivity within all the people of your team, which ultimately strengthens the entire organization. Next, if you have employees, you want to empower them, and you do so by cultivating autonomy. You want to help them make decisions that align with your ideals. And in order to do that, they have to know your why, and they have to truly understand the how. So not just why do we do these things, but how do I effectively do these things? And once your team has that locked and loaded and solid, then they then have autonomy. That means they are empowered to make decisions that will naturally align with your company ideals. Next, you want to authentically recognize their efforts. You want to make sure that you know the people that are around you and that you recognize how they receive praise. Not everybody is on Facebook. Not everybody is on social media all the time. Not everybody gets a big whoop when we shout them out on those mediums. So really finding ways to authentically recognize them in a way that they feel is valuable is really going to help them a lot. So if your teammate could care less whether people know about them on Facebook, then maybe they would better prefer a card or flowers or a gift card, or maybe quality time, going to lunch with you or having a lunch date over Zoom. Finding ways to authentically recognize their efforts really helps to strengthen company culture. You also want to make it easy to give and receive feedback. This is a time when in our economy and in the workforce as a whole, where people are really sometimes hesitant to give feedback because there's been previous to now so much retribution in the workforce, right? You say something negative about someone, somehow it shows up later, right? You either don't get promoted or you don't get that opportunity, or someone kind of is bad mouthing you in the industry, whatever that may be. We want to kind of be the antithesis of that in our organizations. We want to make sure that it's not only easy for them to give feedback, but that we make it where we're open to receive the feedback. We give a lot of feedback, y'all. Like when we're talking to nannies and we're talking to our employers and we're talking to clients and we're talking to families who need, we're giving them feedback all the time. We're telling them everything we know, everything we think, everything we believe. But oftentimes we make it very difficult, or we seem uneasy when it's time to reciprocate that, when they need to give us feedback. We want to make it easy to give and receive feedback. Ways that I found to be successful is to allow it to be anonymous. So if you're talking about a team, you can allow it to be anonymous. You can break them up into smaller groups where they're not having to present their feedback to an entire large group. You can make it regular, so give them consistent opportunities to give you feedback. You can follow through with their suggestions. You can yourself give honest feedback. Again, people are, back to self-aware leadership, more of who we are than what we say. And so when we give honest feedback and when we have a considerate delivery, then oftentimes we cultivate a team that will give us honest feedback, and they will be considerate in their delivery. You also want to enable them to serve a greater purpose. Connecting them with opportunities to serve other people naturally strengthens their connection to you as a business owner and a connection to that business. So when you provide opportunities for them to tutor, to donate, to give back to others, to serve in food pantries, to plant trees, to do all these things, it naturally gives them good feelings. Giving to other people makes you feel good. You feel good about that. And you will naturally feel good about the person that connected you with that opportunity to give back. So making sure that you enable them to serve a greater purpose is really important. This is also really what we should be doing anyways. We live in our communities, we reside in this community, we take from the community, the grocery store, the bank, and all this stuff. We should be found giving back where we're planted all of the time. This is not something that's meant to be a business strategy. It really should be at the core of who we are just on a regular basis. Next, you want to reduce burnout. Burnout is exhaustion or cynicism toward one's job that results in reduced performance. And being able to recognize that is going to be something that gives you a competitive edge and helps to strengthen your internal culture, because you will help people recognize that internally and then give them avenues to kind of offset that before it becomes something that can affect your bottom line. Consequences of burnout include excessive stress, alcohol abuse, somatic complaints, heart disease. It really affects us not just mentally, but physically. That type of stress and burnout shows up in our body. When someone is burnt out, they naturally put forth a lower quality of care, a reduction in compassion. We are in a compassion-based industry. We deal with children, adults, elderly people, pets, all these things that require us to put forth empathy and have compassion. Having a reduction in compassion or care is something that is detrimental to our businesses as a whole. And so we really should all be motivated or really tied to making sure that we can reduce that. Here are the three components of burnout. They are emotional exhaustion, a low sense of personal accomplishment, and depersonalization. How do you recognize that? Emotional exhaustion shows up like frustration and tension. A low sense of personal accomplishment manifests itself in ineffectiveness or feelings of incompetence. Depersonalization manifests itself as cynicism or distance. So you find that the person that you're working with continues to distance themselves from you. They're really cynical when you're talking to them. They seem very, very frustrated. They feel incompetent, like they're not capable of doing a good job, that they're not capable of having a satisfactory client experience. These are things that should be red flags to you, that it could potentially be signs of burnout. So what causes those things? It could be a lack of control, not being able to control the things that matter to you or that affect you, unclear job expectations, not knowing what is really expected of you, dysfunctional workplace dynamics, having individuals that do not create a beneficial work environment. So this would be dealing with aggressive individuals who are not well-versed in communication, extremes in activity levels, going from being extremely chaotic in your work environment to having literally nothing to do. And the alternates of those extremes can cause a lot of stress. A lack of social support. Many people work, especially in the childcare industry, in a place where they're really isolated and they're talking with a bunch of young people who can't quite carry on a conversation with them. That can be very isolating, and that can contribute to mental fatigue and a bit of lack of social support. So connecting them with individuals for whom are in their same age and demographic, and people that they can talk to who understand their job dynamics, can be helpful. A work-life imbalance, poor management, and work and personal circumstances. We can prevent this by all the things that you see on your screen, by having external recognition, by having some type of EAP program in place. I don't know if you all have that in your businesses or are aligned with that, but you should. Other things that we can advocate for are the things you also see on your screen. These are things that, as business owners, as agency owners, as just people in the marketplace, that we should be advocating for these things with people who work with us, our team members, our employees. These types of things, while all of them are not monetary, help them feel seen, help them feel loved, help them feel valued and taken care of, and they contribute to higher instances of work-life balance and lower instances of work-life conflict. Next, you want to provide professional development opportunities. Childcare in and of itself is a professional field. So many agency owners and so many business owners have spent years professionalizing that in the eyes and ears and hearts of the people in their communities. You are no more professional than the opportunities you provide for professional development, right? And so if everyone always has to go outside of you to grow within the organization that you're a part of, that's a real big ding on your organization. You should be providing professional development opportunities on an ongoing basis. Why? Because this is a professional field. We have teachers that are required to do ongoing professional development. Daycare workers are required to do ongoing professional development, and oftentimes nannies, NCS, household managers, things like that. They are making more than all of them and are required to do literally nothing but show up. That is something that we should really be turning on its head. We should be providing these opportunities in order to professionalize the field. Anything that is professional requires a level of certification, training, and ongoing training. And we should be found in that space. So we should encourage mentorship connections. We should create onboarding. We should have professional development programs, whether they're in person, whether they're virtual, whatever it is, it should be relevant. It should be appropriate, and it should be consistent. The consistency wherewith you provide these opportunities professionalizes your organization, right? So if I say I'm really passionate about dogs, right? I'm a member of PETA. I'm really passionate about dogs and animal welfare. And every other year I participate in something. I'm not that passionate. It's not really my shtick, right? Because I don't have time, effort, and intention invested in that. The same is true of us. We are requiring nannies, NCS, household managers, tutors, all these people within our organizations to be educated, to educate children, to provide really consistent and scaffold rich environments. In order to do that, we should be linking them to opportunities to grow in that field. They should not always have to go outside of you to grow in your organization. And so you want to provide that. Ways that we do this within I own an agency, and ways that we do this, we've been providing professional development to our team every other month for the last 9.5 years. November will be our 10th year of business. And we have been providing professional development trainings, as you can see in our pictures, every other month for that entire time. Was it always, high attendance numbers? No, it wasn't. What happened is it took some time for it to kind of soak in like a rain, right? It took some time for people to believe that you were really about that life. And sometimes when you put words to things and you say, this is really important to us, it's really important that nannies are educated, it's really important that you're engaged, it's really important that you're learning, people, hear that stuff all the time. We hear it all the time. And so it takes some time for them to really see you doing this consistently, to realize you have skin in the game and that you actually meant what you said. And so we have had these trainings every other month for the last 9.5 years. We've never canceled a training. We've never rescheduled a training. We've never moved a training. We have been rock solid on having this at the time and the day that we said we were going to do it. So much so that our team now counts on it. They know it's always coming. It's not a surprise. And that's how you kind of build a little bit of reputation within your space. And so now when we say to nannies, you being trained and being curious and learning new things throughout your career is important to us. It's not something we're just saying, it's something that they can believe. And when they get in the organization and they meet other nannies, everybody else will affirm that, because they're like, yeah, I've been here for 4 years. I've been to this many trainings. And so it's really important that you provide ongoing professional development opportunities. This is kind of my soapbox. As you can tell, I feel some kind of way about it, because I feel like it's a space we should all be in. Nannies on most blogs and on most of your Facebook pages are looking for opportunities to grow. They are not all of that mind and space that just pay me and I show up. A lot of them are really looking to be connected with people who are motivated to help them grow in this way. And so if we can connect them with opportunities to do this, it is really beneficial. You also want to make sure that the person that is teaching your class is someone who is content specific, and that they're actually a really good teacher. Having your nannies or your team members show up to somebody who can't, carry on a conversation is going to be not beneficial for your organization. All right. So next, you also want to engage through communication and open dialogue. So in order to build a good internal culture, it's really important that your team feel like they can talk to you, they can talk to members of your admin team, and they can talk to each other. Them being able to have communication within the organization is something that it's almost like blood running through your body, right? That type of communication running through your organization keeps the organization alive. It's a living organism, right? And so providing opportunities for two-way dialogue, weekly conversation starters, rant platforms. I think I've said this in a training I did earlier this year, that for 5 years, we had an internal Facebook group, right? And every Wednesday was Rant Wednesday on this Facebook group. And so they got to talk about literally everything that ticked them off and rubbed them the wrong way and frustrated them. They got to just air their grievances on this Facebook page every Wednesday. And then the whole team got to speak to it. They got to encourage them. They got to give them advice. Now, what did that do? That provided open dialogue for them. It gave them opportunity to talk to each other. But as an admin team and as an agency owner, it was an amazing informal way for us to assess the people that we had on our team. If Lucy has the same problem every other week and she's complaining about the same thing and has been for the last 3 years, then we know that this is not Lucy's strong suit, right? Lucy is struggling. If she's always complaining about discipline, I would not place her in a home where, strong levels of boundaries and discipline are required if she struggles in that area. It also gives us an opportunity to informally assess the people who are giving advice. So if someone is giving advice to the other nannies and their advice is really great, that's someone we can pin in on, that person has a good train of thought. That person has a good base of knowledge. We should pay attention to that. If someone is giving really ratchet advice, then that's also something we should pay attention to be like, hey, this person is not giving great advice. We should watch who we send her to. We should pay attention to who we allow her to speak with. So those things can be really beneficial to the organization. Nanny chats, growth groups, play date meetups, all of those types of things can be really helpful. Then you want to have some type of internal communication platform for those of you who are on engine hire and scaffolding in different types of platforms and technology and things like that. Using that to engage with your clients, but to also engage with your nannies, and then finding platforms that will allow your nannies to engage with you and with each other is going to be really beneficial. So for our team, we use Slack, we've used Microsoft Teams, we've used Monday, we've used all kinds of things before, but finding some type of internal communication platform that works really well to allow your team, again, to communicate with those in leadership, but then to also communicate with each other. It's really beneficial. And once you get those ends into the nannies or ends into your team where you're able to communicate with them regularly, you want to make sure that you're relevant and concise. You don't want to abuse the avenues that they've given you to communicate with them. So you're sending push notifications every 6 hours about whatever crosses your mind. You don't want to abuse that opportunity to have a direct end to them to communicate. And so it's really important that whatever you send to them is relevant, it's concise, and it feels valuable to them when you have that. Lastly, I'm going to read for you an email that I received, and then this nanny went ahead and posted it on Facebook. And I saw it about last year is when she posted it. We had just placed her in a new position. And, we've been working on the 10 points that I just shared with you for a while now. And sometimes as business owners or agency owners or just entrepreneurs, it's hard to know if what you're doing is really making an impact, if it's valuable to other people, if they're finding value in it. And so she wrote this post and then subsequently wrote an email. So she says, okay, so I'm going to get mushy for a bit now. I've been with eNanny for about 6 years now, if I'm remembering correctly. And through that time, I've grown a lot as a human. I've learned that I had a lot of healing to do from childhood trauma and the side effects of having dyslexia, dyscalculia, ADHD, and am potentially autistic. While being with eNanny, I've been able to gain the knowledge I needed to do better for me and heal. I've gained the tools to understand why I felt the way I did. I did enough to pass, but no more to avoid being seen. The anxiety was too much. But now I'm confidently going for jobs I would have been too afraid to go for before. And I'm an advisor for other nannies, and numerous nannies on up in the company affirm my abilities regularly. I never even imagined being any kind of authority in a field, but here I am being called a newborn care specialist, being sought after for interviews, and having others meet me and say things like, so you're the famous Annie that keeps getting mentioned in the chat and at meetings, and it blows my mind. I do want to say that this is not to show off. I genuinely think everyone should be treated this way and feel this way in their career. And I believe to my core, had I gone the same route as a nanny, but not through eNanny, I wouldn't have made it anywhere. I wouldn't have gained the skills I did, and I wouldn't be proud of myself like I am now. Find companies that want to pour into you so that you can grow. Find companies that want you because you've got potential and they see it and want to invest in it. And so if you're wondering from the bottom up, or from your employees up, or from your team members up, if what you're doing and these types of things actually matter to people, I want you to know that it does. It really does matter that they feel like they're being put first. It really does matter that you are aware of your leadership style. It really does matter that you define your why and that you're relevant, and that you know the strengths of the people around you, that you encourage partnerships, that you empower them, that you reduce the opportunities for burnout, that you provide professional development, and that you engage them in communication. These are 10 ways that we can help to optimize our culture and ultimately build the people that have aligned themselves with our organization. And that's all I have for you today. Do you guys have any questions I could answer for you, or anything like that that I can clarify for you before we're done?
If you have some questions, you can also put them on the comment section if you want.
Oh, yeah. Stephanie said that her strengths are video, connection, and events. I really love that. You actually will find that more people have difficulty knowing their own strengths than you would think. And them talking about their strengths is actually it's a sore spot for a lot of people, and not to go on one side or another, but it's actually a really sore spot for a lot of women, to talk about the things that they're good at and their levels of competency. Jenna says, how long did it take you to build this level of structure and programming for nannies? Not long, to be honest. I started out doing that. So when I first started the agency, I think I had 7 nannies. And we met for our first training session with 5 of them within our first 3 months of opening up. So, I just take a lot of informal communication from nannies. I get their input a lot. And so I'm not just arbitrarily picking things out of the sky. Everything that we created, from mentorship opportunities to advisory councils within our organization, were all things that our team told us that they wanted, or told us that they needed, or told us that they desired. And so really, again, engaging in that two-way dialogue, we built this based off of what they need. And it's a moving organism. It's a growing organism. So at times when they no longer need that, we don't do that anymore. If they need something different, we modify it. So it's something that we started. It didn't take long to do it, but it did take a long time to gain traction, I will say, because, nannies and people in general, they tend to be skeptical by nature. And so it does take some time for people to realize that you're going to be around, and it's not like just a trend that you're doing to be some kind of way and then it's going to fall off. Let's see. Where did you find the resources for your monthly classes for babysitters and nannies? That's a great question. Initially, I brought in trainers. So first I polled, again, two-way dialogue. We asked nannies what they wanted to learn about. We still do that every year. Every November, we have a company-wide party, and every November, our team tells us what they want to learn about. They vote on it. They have conversations about it and growth groups about it to tell us what they want to learn about. So we asked them what they wanted to learn about. And then initially, for the first 3 years, we brought in speakers through our community who were subject matter experts in that particular area. So if they wanted to learn about autism, we brought in occupational therapists and speech therapists and different physicians. And they want to learn about taxes, we brought in a CPA. They wanted to learn about pediatric yoga, we brought in a yoga instructor. So we brought in people throughout the community. Again, this is another way to dive into your community and to let them know that you're here, and to create partnerships, to bring in other resources to connect your team to. So that's how we did that initially. How do you plan out your personal development events? Do you recycle teaching or bring other instructors in? Great question, Stephanie. So we get our feedback from the nannies, and then yes, we do recycle some teaching. So probably every 2 or 3 years, we go through like the life cycle of a child, just in case we have nannies or people on our team for whom they don't know a lot about a specific age and demographic. So we cover age, development stages, everything from birth through 12 to 13 every few years in some capacity. And yes, we recycle some teaching. So if we have something that the nannies really, really enjoy, and that it's like a win every time, then we try to bring it in every few years so that they can be updated on it. Information is changing all the time. Science is changing all the time, and resources are growing all the time. And so we definitely want to make sure that we're pinning in information like that. Are your nannies W-2 employees? Yes, they are. They're all W-2 employees. So I think that was all the questions. Where did I find resources? Do I recycle teaching or bring? Yeah, so I did bring in other instructors for the first few years. The last 3 years, I've brought in a speaker maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But other than that, I've taught it. Again, that was also based off of my team voting for that. They asked me just to teach the classes because they preferred it that way, and that they wanted to hear from me. So that's what we started doing 3 years ago, but I still do bring in different speakers throughout the year. What kinds of mentoring opportunities do you offer for nannies? Great question. So we created what was called advisories within our organization. So we put together toolkits. Toolkits are small videos, like 1 minute to 3 minute videos that we've created that cover all the questions that we get asked the most, or the obstacles that nannies are running into the most. So if people are struggling with virtual interviews or whatever. So we created these short videos that we provide for the nannies. Well, oftentimes they still wanted somebody just to talk them through a few things. So we created what is called advisories, and they are nannies that have been with our organization for a few years that have really good qualities that we would like to see replicated in other people. And we created opportunities for all new nannies to be paired with these people that have been in our organization. for a long period of time. So I think the largest group of advisors we had was like 8 advisors within the organizations. And then every person that came into the organization was paired with an advisor, and that person would chat with them. They would have Zoom videos and Google Meet videos. They would have outings. That would be kind of their lower level resource for questions that they had. It empowered our nannies who had a good wealth of knowledge and have been with us for a while, but it also gave them a connection so they didn't have to just talk to like a member of our admin team all the time. And then when we created those toolkit videos that we used, then that gave those advisors an opportunity to, put something forth. Like, here's a video on how you would do, you can do better. I heard you didn't do really well at your interview. Here's a quick 2-minute video you can watch that can give you some pointers so you can do better, right? And so it doesn't seem as aggressive. It seems more helpful. Everybody can watch a 2-minute video instead of attending a 40-minute training. And so it just gave them more resources to put forth and more resources for our nannies so that they can do better. Ultimately, we're trying to grow humans into better humans and better communicators and better people. And so every avenue that we can use to do that and also empower them while we do that is kind of what we're about. Any other questions? I think that is all the ones that came in. Well, I really appreciate you all today. Thank you so much for your time and attention and for having this conversation with me. And thank you, Engine Hire, for having me today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Erica. Thank you so much, everyone that joined today. And we will send you the recording once it's ready. So yeah, thank you so much for everything. And I hope you have a great day, all of you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Okay, bye, Erica. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for
Bye.
taking the time to join us. Bye.